My wife suggested we see other people. Her vision cleared when I actually agreed. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Guys, I need to get this off my chest. This story happened over the past 6 months, and holy shit, I still can't believe how it all went down. Fair warning, this is going to be long, but I promise it's worth reading to the end. Also using a throwaway for obvious reasons. Some background on me. I, 33 male, work as a senior project manager for a mid-sized construction company, making around $165,000 a year. Not rich, but comfortable, you know? I'm what you'd probably call a late bloomer. Was a total nerd through high school and college, focused on my career instead of chasing girls, didn't really start dating seriously until my late 20s. I'm not ugly, but I'm definitely not what you'd call naturally charismatic with women. 5 feet 10 inches, was pretty average build back then, kind of the classic nice guy provider type that women say they want, but don't actually get excited about. Let me tell you about Jessica. When I met her 7 years ago, she was 26 and absolutely freaking stunning. I'm talking legitimate 9 out of 10 material. Long blonde hair, perfect body, the kind of girl who could walk into any room and have every guy's attention immediately. We met at a company holiday party where she was working as a marketing coordinator for the event planning company we hired. Basically, she was there to look pretty and hand out brochures. I was making decent money by then, around $110,000, and when this goddess started actually talking to me like I was interesting, I thought I'd won the lottery. Should have been red flag number one, but hey, I was thinking with my dick instead of my brain. We dated for 2 years, and it was like a fairy tale. She was sweet, supportive, amazing in bed, everything I thought I wanted in a woman. She moved into my 2-bedroom condo after about 8 months, which I owned outright thanks to a small inheritance from my grandpa. After about a year and a half, she quit her event job because it was too stressful and didn't pay enough to be worth it. I didn't mind at first. I was pulling in good money. She kept the place spotless, cooked dinner most nights, and I genuinely thought this was what a successful relationship looked like. She'd spend her days shopping, getting her nails done, meeting up with her equally hot friends for expensive lunches, all funded by my credit cards, of course. Classic gold digger behavior, but I was too pussy-whipped to see it. Looking back, there were signs everywhere. She never paid for anything herself, not even small stuff like coffee or gas. Her friends were all either married to rich older guys or dating men who clearly made way more money than they deserved based on their looks and personality. Jessica would constantly compare our lifestyle to theirs. Sarah's husband bought her a new BMW for her birthday, or Madison's boyfriend took her to Paris for Valentine's Day. The wedding planning was where things really should have clicked for me. This girl wanted everything. The venue had to be perfect, $8,000 just for the location. The dress had to be designer, $3,000. The flowers had to be exotic, $2,000. And don't even get me started on the photographer, $4,000 for one freaking day. Total cost, $47,000 for one day. I paid for literally everything, including her bachelorette party in Vegas, $4,000 for the weekend. "It's our special day, baby," she'd say whenever I questioned the cost. "Don't you want it to be perfect? Don't you want people to see how successful we are?" Always about appearances with her. Always about what other people would think. After we got married, the real Jessica started coming out. The sex went from every other day to maybe once a week, then once every 2 weeks. She got more demanding about money. Suddenly, my paid-off condo was a starter home, and she needed a real house with a pool and a 3-car garage. She wanted new furniture, a bigger kitchen, a walk-in closet. There was always something else she needed. Her social life exploded too. Girls' nights became a weekly thing, sometimes twice a week. She'd get all dressed up, way more effort than she put into date nights with me, and disappear until 2 or 3 a.m. Always had stories about how they went to some trendy new restaurant or exclusive club, how some random guy bought their table drinks all night, how crazy and fun it was. I trusted her because I'm a freaking idiot. She was my wife, right? And honestly, part of me felt lucky that a woman who looked like her had chosen to marry a guy like me. I figured if I kept her happy and comfortable, she'd stay loyal. The money drain was getting serious, though. Between her personal shopping, 200-month minimum, her car payment, 650 month for her BMW, her gym membership, 200 month for some boutique place, spa treatments, dinners out, and all the random shit she needed, Jessica was costing me close to $5,000 a month just in lifestyle expenses. That's $60,000 a year on top of our regular household costs. I started working longer hours to keep up with the expenses, which meant seeing her even less. She'd complain that I was always working and never made time for her anymore. But anytime I suggested we cut back on spending so I could work less, she'd get upset about me trying to control her, or not wanting her to be happy. Classic manipulation tactics, but I didn't see it then. Fast forward to this past March, our 5th wedding anniversary. By this point, I'd gotten a promotion to senior project manager and was making $165,000. But somehow we were still living paycheck to paycheck because of Jessica's spending. She'd maxed out 2 of her credit cards that I was paying the minimums on, and was constantly talking about wanting to upgrade our lifestyle even more. For our anniversary dinner, she insisted we go to the Capitol Grill downtown. You know, the place where steaks start at $55 and a side of asparagus costs $18. I made reservations, bought her a $2,500 diamond necklace she'd been hinting about for months, and actually looked forward to a romantic evening. We're sitting there and something feels off immediately. She's fidgeting with her phone, barely touching her $48 lobster, drinking her sparkling cider way too fast. I keep trying to make conversation, but she's giving me one-word answers and keeps checking the time. Then, right as they're bringing out the dessert I'd pre-ordered, she drops the bomb. Mike, I've been doing a lot of thinking about us lately, and I think we should consider exploring an open relationship. I literally stopped mid-bite of my $16 chocolate cake. What the freak did you just say? Don't be so dramatic. I'm talking about ethical non-monogamy. Lots of progressive couples are doing it now. We've been together for 7 years total. Things have gotten predictable, and I think we could both benefit from some outside excitement. The way she said it was so rehearsed, like she'd been practicing this speech in the mirror. She launched into this whole spiel about how sexually liberated couples have better relationships, how it would make us appreciate each other more, and how it's actually been scientifically proven to strengthen marriages in the long term. I'm sitting there completely stunned while she's talking like she's explaining why we should refinance our mortgage. Then she drops the real kicker. Actually, I've already met someone I'm interested in. Nothing has happened yet, obviously, but there's definitely chemistry there. His name is Derek, and he owns several franchise restaurants in the area. That's when my brain finally caught up to what was happening. This wasn't a suggestion for our relationship. This was her asking for retroactive permission to cheat. She'd probably already been cheating and wanted to make it official so she could stop sneaking around. So let me get this straight, I said, keeping my voice level. You want permission to freak other guys while staying married to me? It's not just about sex, Mike. It's about connection, excitement, exploring different aspects of ourselves. And it would be mutual. You could see other people too. Right. Like I was going to have women lining up to date a married guy who lets his wife sleep around. How long have you been thinking about this? I asked. A few months. I've been reading about it online, talking to some friends who have experience with open relationships. Bullshit. I'd bet money she'd been talking to Derek for way longer than a few months. Here's where I made the decision that changed everything. Instead of getting angry, instead of making a scene or begging her to reconsider, I smiled and said, "You know what, Jessica? That actually sounds like a great idea. I'm totally on board." The look on her face was priceless. Pure confusion mixed with what I can only describe as disappointment. You are? Absolutely. You're right that things have gotten predictable. I think it would be exciting for both of us to explore other options. I raised my glass of water. To new adventures and personal growth. She clinked glasses with me, but I could see the gears turning in her head. This was definitely not going according to her script. She'd expected tears, begging, maybe me fighting for our marriage. Instead, I was acting like she just suggested we try a new restaurant. The rest of dinner was awkward as hell. She kept trying to backtrack, saying things like, we should probably establish some ground rules first, and maybe we don't need to rush into anything. But I was already mentally checked out, my brain shifting into planning mode. See, here's what Jessica didn't know about me. I might not be the smoothest guy with women, but I'm freaking good at reading people and situations. It's literally part of my job. Managing construction projects means constantly dealing with contractors, suppliers, and clients who are trying to manipulate timelines, costs, or scope. I've gotten really good at spotting bullshit. And this whole open marriage thing reeked of bullshit. That night, after Jessica fell asleep, she tried to initiate sex for the first time in about 6 weeks, probably feeling guilty. I started doing some digging. First thing I did was check our cell phone records online. We'd been on a family plan for years, and I'd never really looked at the detailed usage before. Holy shit, what I found was enlightening. For the past 4 months, Jessica had been texting and calling one number constantly. Sometimes 50-plus texts in a single day, calls that lasted over an hour. The number wasn't saved in her phone under any name I recognized. When I reverse searched it, guess whose name came up? Derek freaking Morrison, owner of 3 Applebee's franchises in our metro area. 4 months. She'd been talking to this guy for 4 months before bringing up the open marriage idea. Next, I went through our credit card statements more carefully than I ever had before. This is where it got really interesting. There were charges I'd never noticed before. Expensive lunches at restaurants across town from where she usually hung out. Hotel charges for day rates. Who the freak needs a hotel room from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.? Lingerie purchases from Victoria's Secret that I'd never seen her wear. The hotel charges really got my attention. $89 for a day rate at the Marriott downtown. Same hotel, same charge amount, 6 different times over the past 3 months. All on days when she told me she was having lunch with her friend Sarah or getting spa treatments. I pulled up our banking app and started going through months of transactions. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months, Jessica had been withdrawing $100 to $150 in cash from ATMs near the downtown area. When I asked her about random cash withdrawals before, she always said it was for girls' lunch or tips at the spa. But here's the thing, Jessica never paid cash for anything. Ever. She was a credit card girl through and through, always wanted the points and rewards. The only reason she'd need that much cash regularly was if she was doing something she didn't want showing up on our statements. I decided to do a little more investigating. The next Tuesday, I told her I had to work late and wouldn't be home until after 7 p.m. Then I left work at my normal time and parked across the street from that Marriott downtown. Sure enough, at 2:15 p.m., Jessica's white BMW pulled into the parking garage. At 2:23 p.m., a black Porsche SUV pulled in right behind her. I waited about 5 minutes, then walked through the lobby like I was meeting someone for a business lunch. There they were, checking in together. Jessica and some tall guy in an expensive suit who was definitely not her gay friend Marcus she sometimes claimed to meet for lunch. The way he had his hand on her lower back, the way she was leaning into him. Yeah, these two were definitely not discussing restaurant management strategies. I took a few pictures with my phone from across the lobby, then left before they could see me. That night, Jessica came home around 6 p.m. with shopping bags from Nordstrom and a story about spending the afternoon with her friend Madison, looking for a dress for Madison's cousin's wedding. She was in a great mood, more affectionate than she'd been in weeks, and even suggested we order dinner from our favorite sushi place. The whole time she's chatting about her day, I'm thinking about her being naked in that hotel room with Derek Morrison a few hours earlier. It was surreal. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more evidence, and I needed a plan. Over the next 2 weeks, I hired a private investigator. Cost me $3,000 up front, but I figured it was worth every penny to get professional documentation of what Jessica was up to. The PI was this former cop named Rodriguez, who specialized in cheating spouse cases. Gruff guy, probably in his 50s, looked like he'd seen every type of marital bullshit imaginable. I showed him what I'd discovered so far, and he just nodded like this was the most boring case ever. "How long you want me to follow her?" he asked. "However long it takes to get enough evidence to bury her in divorce court." Fair enough. Standard rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. Most cases like this, I get what you need in about 20 to 30 hours of surveillance. While Rodriguez was building my legal case, I decided to work on myself. Not because I wanted Jessica back. That ship had sailed the moment I saw her checking into that hotel, but because I realized I'd let myself go during our marriage. I joined a serious gym, not one of those Planet Fitness bullshit places, but a real weightlifting gym where the guys actually knew what they were doing. Started going every morning at 5:30 a.m. before work. The physical exhaustion felt good, like I was literally sweating out years of frustration and complacency. I also signed up for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes 3 nights a week. Figured if I was going to transform myself, might as well learn how to handle myself physically too. Plus, the mental discipline aspect appealed to me. I needed something to focus on, besides the rage I felt every time I looked at my cheating wife. The changes were dramatic and fast. Within 6 weeks, I'd lost 20 pounds and put on noticeable muscle. My clothes fit better, I was standing straighter, and people at work were commenting on how different I looked. My boss even asked if I was training for something specific. Meanwhile, Jessica was getting bolder with her cheating. The girls' nights increased to 3 to 4 times per week. She started staying out until 3 or 4 a.m., sometimes not coming home until the next morning with stories about crashing at Sarah's place because she was too tired to drive. She also ramped up her spending. New clothes constantly, expensive makeup, professional manicures twice a week. Our credit card bills were hitting $8,000 some months, just from her personal expenses. When I asked about it, she'd get defensive and say she deserved to look good, and I was being controlling by questioning her spending. The PI started sending me regular updates with photos and video. Jessica and Derek were meeting 2 to 3 times per week, always at the same hotel. They'd been seen together at expensive restaurants across town, holding hands and kissing like teenagers. Derek had even bought her jewelry, a gold bracelet I'd seen her wearing but assumed she'd bought herself. But the most damaging evidence came from the PI's investigation into Derek himself. Turns out this asshole was married with 2 kids. His wife had no idea he was cheating, and based on his social media, he was playing the devoted family man role publicly while screwing my wife privately. Rodriguez also discovered that Derek wasn't nearly as successful as he'd been telling Jessica. The 3 Applebee's franchises were all heavily leveraged, and he was behind on payments to corporate. His Porsche was leased, his house had 2 mortgages, and he was basically living paycheck to paycheck while trying to maintain an appearance of wealth. Jessica was getting played just as hard as I was, but she was too stupid to see it. After about 6 weeks of surveillance, Rodriguez called me with an update that changed everything. "Your wife's boyfriend has been doing this before," he said. I found 2 other women he was seeing regularly over the past year. Same pattern. Married women whose husbands make good money. Meets them at hotels. Tells them he's going to leave his wife. One of them divorced her husband thinking Derek was going to marry her. He ghosted her as soon as the divorce was final. Derek Morrison wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator who specifically targeted married women for affairs, probably getting off on the idea of destroying other men's marriages. That's when I decided Jessica wasn't just going to lose me. She was going to lose everything. Right around the 2-month mark after Jessica's open marriage suggestion, she started getting antsy about me not dating anyone yet. "Have you thought about setting up a dating profile?" she asked one morning over coffee. "I could help you pick out pictures." The irony was incredible. My cheating wife offering to help me find other women to cheat with. "I've been thinking about it," I lied. "Just want to make sure I'm ready, you know? This is all new territory for me." "Of course, baby. No pressure. I just want you to experience the same freedom that I have." Freedom. Right. The freedom to destroy our marriage while I paid for her lifestyle? She started pushing harder, probably because she was feeling guilty about how much she was enjoying her affair while I sat at home like a chump. She'd make suggestions about women I should ask out, offer to watch dating app profiles with me, even suggested I ask out Sarah from her friend group who'd recently gotten divorced. "Sarah thinks you're really attractive," Jessica said one night. "She mentioned that you've been looking really good lately. I think you 2 would hit it off." My wife was literally trying to pimp me out to her friends so she could feel better about cheating on me. The level of manipulation was staggering. Around this time, I started changing my behavior in subtle ways. I'd go out for work events that ran late, come home smelling like different restaurants, or wearing cologne I'd applied in my car. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make her wonder what I was doing. The effect was immediate. Jessica, who'd been coming and going as she pleased for months, suddenly became very interested in my schedule. "Where was your work thing tonight?" she'd ask. "Just a client dinner downtown, nothing exciting." "Which restaurant?" "Some steakhouse. I don't remember the name." I'd keep the details vague, just like she'd been doing with her girls' nights for months. Turnabout is fair play, right? She started waiting up for me when I'd come home late, something she'd never done during her own late nights. She'd be sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV, but obviously just waiting to interrogate me about my evening. The more mysterious I became about my activities, the more anxious she got. She started suggesting we spend more time together, plan date nights, even brought up the idea of taking a vacation together to reconnect. This from the woman who'd been freaking another man in hotel rooms twice a week for months. I played along, acting like the devoted husband who was just exploring his newfound freedom slowly and carefully. Meanwhile, Rodriguez was gathering more evidence, and I was getting in the best shape of my life while planning the complete destruction of her comfortable little world. The beginning of the end came at Jessica's friend Madison's 30th birthday party in early June. It was one of those typical trophy wife gatherings. Expensive restaurant, everyone dressed to the nines, lots of showing off and one-upping each other. I showed up looking like a completely different person than I had 4 months earlier. The gym and martial arts training had transformed me from soft suburban husband to legitimately jacked. I was wearing a new suit that actually fit my new physique, had a fresh haircut, and was carrying myself with confidence I'd never had before. The reaction from Jessica's friend group was immediate and obvious. These women who'd barely acknowledged my existence for years were suddenly very interested in talking to me. I caught several of them checking me out, which clearly pissed off their husbands. But I wasn't there to flirt or make new enemies. I was there to watch Jessica hang herself. About an hour into the party, after everyone had a few drinks and the conversation was flowing freely, Jessica made her fatal mistake. She started bragging about our evolved relationship. Mike and I have been exploring ethical non-monogamy, she announced to the table. It's been such a positive experience for both of us. The table went quiet. These weren't exactly progressive types. Most of them were traditional marriages, where the women didn't work and the men provided everything. Non-monogamy? Asked Sarah's husband, looking confused. We're seeing other people, Jessica clarified, clearly enjoying the shocked reactions. It's very modern, very sophisticated. We've both been dating outside our marriage, and it's actually brought us closer together. I let her keep talking, digging her grave deeper with every word. She was painting herself as this sexually liberated woman who was secure enough in her marriage to explore other relationships, while portraying me as the understanding husband who was evolved enough to support her journey. It takes a very confident man to be okay with his wife dating other people, she continued, reaching over to squeeze my hand. But Mike understands that love isn't about possession. It's about wanting your partner to be fulfilled and happy. The whole table was staring at us now. Some looked disgusted, others just confused, but everyone was definitely uncomfortable. Finally, Madison's husband Steve asked the question I'd been waiting for. So Mike, how do you feel about all this? This was my moment. Well, Steve, it's interesting that Jessica describes it that way, I said, making sure my voice was loud enough for the whole table to hear. Because my experience has been a little different. Jessica's hand tightened on mine. Mike, what? See, Jessica had been cheating on me for months before she suggested opening our marriage, I continued calmly. Meeting a guy named Derek Morrison at hotels downtown, using our joint credit cards to pay for the rooms. The open marriage conversation came after I started getting suspicious about her spending and her schedule. You could have heard a pin drop. Jessica's face went from confident to panicked in about 2 seconds. So when she talks about our evolved relationship, what she really means is that she wanted retroactive permission to cheat while keeping me around to pay for her lifestyle. Mike, stop! Jessica hissed. But I was just getting started. Did you know Derek is married with kids? His wife has no idea he's been freaking other men's wives in hotels while she's home with their children. Very sophisticated stuff. The table was dead silent now. Madison looked mortified that her birthday party had turned into this drama. Several of the other wives were staring at Jessica like she'd just admitted to murder. Jessica's been spending about $5,000 a month of our money on her affair. Hotels, restaurants, new clothes to impress her boyfriend, even jewelry he bought her with money he borrowed against his failing restaurants. I stood up and pulled out my phone, showing the table a picture Rodriguez had taken of Jessica and Derek kissing outside the hotel. This was taken last Tuesday, around the same time she told me she was having lunch with Sarah to help her pick out curtains for her new apartment. Sarah's eyes went wide. I was at work last Tuesday. We never had lunch. Jessica bolted from the table and rushed toward the bathroom. Several of her friends followed, probably to do damage control or get the real story. The men at the table were all staring at me with a mixture of horror and respect. Steve finally broke the silence. Dude, why are you still married to her? Not for much longer, I said, sitting back down and finishing my dinner like nothing had happened. The ride home from Madison's party was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Jessica spent the entire time screaming at me, calling me every name in the book, threatening to destroy me in the divorce. You humiliated me in front of everyone, she shrieked. Those are my friends. How could you do that to me? Your friends deserve to know what kind of person you really are, I replied calmly. And frankly, after months of you lying to my face while spending my money on your affair, I figured turnabout was fair play. It wasn't an affair. We agreed to see other people. We agreed to see other people after you'd already been freaking Derek for 4 months. That's called cheating, Jessica. She switched tactics, going from anger to crocodile tears. I made a mistake, okay? I should have talked to you first before anything happened with Derek. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, start over, whatever you want. What I want is a divorce. The tears stopped immediately. You can't be serious. Dead serious. I've already filed the paperwork. You'll be served tomorrow morning. That's when she completely lost her shit. Started hitting me while I was driving, screaming about how she'd take everything in the divorce, how she'd destroy my reputation and make sure I never saw a penny of my own money again. I just kept driving, letting her exhaust herself with her tantrum. When we got home, I calmly walked to our bedroom closet and pulled out 2 suitcases I'd already packed with her stuff. What are those? She asked. Your clothes. You're moving out tonight. This is my house too. You can't kick me out. Actually, I can. The condo is in my name only, bought with money I inherited before we were married. Legally, you have no claim to it. I'd done my homework. In our state, property owned before marriage remains separate property unless it's specifically added to during the marriage. Since Jessica had never contributed a penny to the mortgage, utilities, or improvements, she had zero legal claim to my home. Where am I supposed to go? I don't really care. Maybe Derek can put you up. Or your mother. Or one of those friends you just humiliated yourself in front of. She tried a different approach, switching to seduction mode. Started undressing, telling me how sorry she was, how she'd do anything to make it work. Jessica, get dressed and get out. We're done. Please, Mike. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. No, you love my paycheck. There's a difference. That's when I pulled out the folder Rodriguez had prepared with all the evidence of her affair. Photos, credit card statements, hotel records, even screenshots of text messages between her and Derek that Rodriguez had somehow obtained. This is all going to my attorney tomorrow, along with documentation of every penny you've spent on your affair using marital funds. She looked through the photos, her face getting paler with each one. How did you get these? I hired a professional. Did you really think I was just going to sit around and let you play me forever? You've been spying on me. I've been documenting adultery for divorce proceedings. Big difference. I pulled out one more document, a statement from Derek's wife, who Rodriguez had contacted after getting enough evidence of the affair. Derek's wife filed for divorce yesterday, I told her. Apparently, she wasn't as understanding about his extracurricular activities as I've been about yours. Jessica's face went white. You told his wife? Rodriguez did, as part of his investigation. Turns out Derek's been doing this for years, targeting married women, promising to leave his wife, then ghosting them when they actually leave their husbands. You're just his latest victim. The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. Derek was getting divorced and would probably lose his restaurants in the settlement. Her sugar daddy was about to become broke, and her husband was throwing her out with nothing. What do you want from me? She whispered. Nothing. I want you gone, and I want you to stay gone. She spent the next hour making phone calls, trying to find somewhere to stay. Derek's phone went straight to voicemail. Apparently, he was already ghosting her now that his wife knew about the affair. Her friends from the party weren't answering their phones. Finally, her mother agreed to let her stay in her guest room, temporarily. As she was loading her suitcases into her BMW, she made one last desperate play. Mike, please. We can work this out. I'll end things with Derek completely. We can start over, maybe move somewhere new, have a fresh start. Jessica, you've been stealing from me for months to fund an affair with a married man who's now dumping you. What exactly is there to work out? Stealing? I never stole anything. That's when I dropped the final bomb. The private investigator found something interesting when he was looking into your activities, I said calmly. Turns out you've been skimming money from our joint accounts for over a year. Small amounts, $200 to $300 at a time, transferred to a private account I didn't know about. Her face went completely white. The total is just over $47,000. That's felony embezzlement, Jessica. Rodriguez had actually discovered this by accident while reviewing our financial records. Jessica had been slowly siphoning money from our joint checking account into a secret account she'd opened, probably planning her exit strategy or just building a slush fund for her affair. That money was for household expenses. Household expenses like hotel rooms with Derek, designer lingerie he never got to see, restaurant bills from places you went with your boyfriend. I pulled out one more document, a complaint I'd already filed with the district attorney's office. You're being charged with felony embezzlement and fraud. The DA's office is very interested in your case, especially since you used the stolen money to fund an extramarital affair. Jessica started hyperventilating. You can't do this to me. I'm your wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. And yes, I absolutely can do this. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. She left that night, crying and making threats about how she'd make me pay for destroying her life. The criminal case moved faster than I expected. Jessica's public defender took one look at the evidence Rodriguez had gathered and advised her to take whatever plea deal the DA offered. The financial records were damning. Clear evidence of her systematically stealing money from our joint accounts, combined with credit card statements showing exactly what she'd spent the stolen money on. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry, clothes, all for her affair with Derek. The plea deal was beautiful. 14 months in county jail, 3 years probation, full restitution of the $47,000 plus interest and court costs, total of $52,000, and a felony conviction on her record. Jessica tried to contact me through her lawyer, begging me to ask the DA to reduce the charges. Her mother called crying about how I was ruining her daughter's life. Even Derek called from his own divorce proceedings, asking if there was anything he could do to make this situation right. I told them all the same thing. She should have thought about consequences before she decided to commit felonies. The divorce was even easier. With Jessica facing criminal charges, her attorney advised her to take whatever settlement I offered to avoid further complications. She got to keep her car, with its $30,000 remaining loan balance, her clothes, and her credit card debt. I kept the house, all our savings, my retirement accounts, and everything else. The best part? With a felony conviction, Jessica became essentially unemployable in any decent job. Last I heard from mutual acquaintances, she was working part-time at a nail salon making $9 an hour while living in her mother's basement. Derek lost his restaurants in his divorce and had to move back in with his parents at age 38. Turns out his wife was smarter than both Derek and Jessica combined. She'd been documenting his affairs for years and took him for everything in the divorce. Meanwhile, my life got exponentially better. I kept working out and training martial arts, bought myself a new truck with the restitution money, and started dating a physical therapist I met at the gym. She's got her own career, her own apartment, and zero interest in me financing her lifestyle. About 6 months after Jessica got out of jail, she showed up at my workplace parking lot, waiting by my truck when I got off work. "Mike, we need to talk," she said. She looked terrible. Skinny in an unhealthy way, cheap clothes, her hair obviously dyed at home instead of professionally done. "No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes. I've changed. I've learned from my mistakes. I know I freaked up, but I want to make it right." "Jessica, you stole $47,000 from me to fund an affair with a married man. You spent 5 years of our marriage treating me like a walking ATM while planning your exit strategy. There's nothing to make right. I know I hurt you, but people can change. I've been to therapy. I've found God. I'm a different person now." I looked at her for a long moment, then pulled out my phone and showed her a picture of me and Sarah, my new girlfriend, on vacation in Costa Rica the month before. "See this? This is what a healthy relationship looks like. Two people who respect each other, contribute equally, and don't lie, cheat, or steal from each other." Her face crumpled. "I could be that for you again. I've learned my lesson. Jessica, you're a convicted felon who destroyed our marriage for a guy who dumped you the second his wife found out about your affair. You spent years manipulating me while planning your exit strategy. Why the hell would I ever trust you again? Because I love you. I always loved you. No, you loved my money. And now that Derek turned out to be broke and you can't find another man stupid enough to support your lifestyle, suddenly you remember how much you love your ex-husband." She started crying. The real kind this time, not the manipulative crocodile tears she used to pull. "I don't have anywhere else to go, Mike. My mom kicked me out, I can't afford my own place, and no decent guy wants to date a felon. That sounds like a you problem. Please, I'm not asking to get back together. I just need help getting back on my feet. Maybe you could loan me some money for a security deposit on an apartment or—" "Absolutely freaking not." I got in my truck and started the engine. She grabbed the door handle, still talking through the open window. "I'll do anything, Mike. I'll sign a prenup, I'll get a job, I'll prove to you that I've changed. Just give me one more chance." "Jessica, listen very carefully because I'm only going to say this once. You made your choices. You chose to cheat, you chose to steal, you chose to treat our marriage like a business transaction where I was the ATM and you were the beneficiary. Those choices have consequences. Live with them." I drove away while she was still standing there crying in the parking lot. That was 8 months ago. I haven't heard from her since, but according to Facebook stalking, don't judge me, she's still living in some shitty apartment with 2 roommates and working retail jobs. Her Instagram went from designer clothes and expensive restaurants to, well, she barely posts anymore. Derek's doing even worse. Lost his house, his cars, his restaurants, everything. Last I heard, he was driving for Uber and living in a studio apartment. His ex-wife cleaned him out completely and has full custody of their kids. Meanwhile, Sarah and I just moved in together. She makes $85,000 as a physical therapist, splits all our expenses 50-50, and treats me like an equal partner instead of a walking paycheck. We're talking about getting engaged next year, but this time I know what red flags to watch for. The crazy thing is, I actually feel grateful to Jessica now. Not for the cheating and stealing, freak that, but for showing me what I was worth and teaching me not to settle for being someone's meal ticket. She thought she could have her cake and eat it too, keep me around for financial security while exploring better options with other men. Instead, she ended up with nothing while I upgraded to a woman who actually deserves me. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, you know?